I would say I collected very consciously in 2015 when I moved here. That time, I started to ask myself, every single piece that I buy, of course I was naive, I didn't think I was gonna ever sell anything. So I thought, you need to know why you're gonna buy this piece. Is it gonna stay in your collection forever? So I would say I collected then. And I got into it because I was also finally confident enough to admit that, hey, I don't really like bags, I don't really like shoes, so why do I keep pretending and wasting money on this stuff? I should just put all this money into what I actually like, which is watches. So that time I went, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna post this on Instagram, maybe I'll have one friend who understands what I'm saying, and that is why I got into it. I definitely like perpetual calendar, and I love a moon face. There's a lot of my friends say that I like to romanticize this industry. For example, I don't like to believe that it's all about sales. I like to believe there was an old man living in a hut and then he decided, I'm gonna create something that you don't need to wind for 100 years. So I've always thought, okay, I'm gonna get a perpetual calendar without actually thinking about how difficult it is to not wind it and then I need to bring it back to the shop. But definitely perpetual calendar and moon face, yeah. I've had different feelings throughout the years. Overall, I have a lot of respect for them because I just think it's hard to start off as a jewelry brand and then make the rest of the industry eventually respect you. That's really hard. And you can see that originally, so from 98 to 2008, they did the CPCP. And then 2018 onwards, they tried to do complications. I think they put in a lot of effort to convince people, hey, we're a serious watch brand. But even in between those years, the sales never really stopped. Like people still bought because I think at the end of the day, they understood we're very good at time only, we're good at case shapes, so keep it simple and design stuff that can actually last through the years. So overall, if somebody said to me, hey, I'm getting a first watch, I'll be like, look at Cartier. It's good value for something that will last you like 40, 50 years. You still won't hate it. The CPCP is interesting because if you look at my watch collection, it's the one watch that I think least resonates to me. So if somebody were to look at it, they'll be like, no, that's not her watch. Everything else I have is very loud, very busy, very bold. I remember it was 2020 and everyone started to look at the crash. And the more that people liked the crash, the more I was like, okay, I'm not gonna look at it. I'm gonna go the opposite way. So I started to look into Cartier. And then I discovered this CPCP collection. But then I thought, oh, how am I gonna convince somebody on the internet to sell it to somebody like me that buys a lot of modern stuff that's really loud? So I went through our mutual friend who was very big into vintage Cartier. And I had to use her to convince that old man to sell it to her, who it was actually for me. And the whole process took a super long time. It was months of emails back and forth, talking about the weather, talking about how was his golf game today. And it's funny because I always think about, I wonder if this guy living in Florida knows this watch actually came to me in Hong Kong. Yeah, it's funny because people who have the original, I mean, there's two originals, one in the 20s and then this one that came out 98 onwards. The people who have the vintage one usually don't really like the modern because it's like, nah, the modern one doesn't have soul and so on. I actually really like it because I think it took a good part of the one from the 20s and the one in the 98 onwards and combined it. I like it when they do this so-called facelift to a watch and it still looks a lot like the original. What I really don't like is when brands go very, very different. It doesn't even look like the original anymore. This one I would say almost looks identical, almost. And I like to see how at least it gives a lot of people a chance to feel what it's like to wear something close to the original. So I love it, yeah. It's interesting. I only saw pictures. I have to say it looks better in real life. And then my thoughts on this, right? Okay, so one, it was funny because everybody knows like the roots are in aviation. So I always thought it's so funny that they didn't do dual time. So about time they put this complication into this. I'll tell you what I like and don't like. I don't like that it went up bigger in size, even though it's like very minimal. I don't think you can really tell. But I like the fact that when you update something, you need to understand, what am I updating for? So you're updating so this watch can now be worn with the current people's lifestyle, which means that it needs to be practical. So I was thinking, okay, you want to be practical, which means you need to be easy to read, you need to be legible. So I think they thought about this, like, okay, subdials are a different color, so it's easy and quick to see. The hands seem to be loomed, so it helps a lot. But overall, I think it's a very solid watch. I know people are angry, like, now this date window's on this and it's overdone. But I don't see what's bad about it. I really like it. They had done one a long time ago, around 2012, and it was kind of like a rare handcrafted mosaic of a horse. And those pieces I find very hard to find and very interesting. It's still a very busy dial. It's only time only, but it showcases what I think the brand does best, which is, the jewelry, the design, and then it still has their own in-house movement. So I think, okay, across the board, obviously the mystery clocks are, to me, very crazy. I've also, like I said earlier, like to romanticize a lot of things. So I understand if I check online, they can explain how the mystery clock works, but I don't want to know. So they had a Rotonde mystery watch that had a flying tourbillon. About 2018, they released it. That to me is, you might not need to be able to wear it because I think the size is a bit too big, but as a brand, you need to showcase what you're capable of and your skills, and then let people decide what they want to buy. So I'm very impressed with that one.